Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, a free site. Also, always 1776.com, a free site. Today is March 12th, 2024. Folks, the risk is all yours and it's high. Nothing I say in this video should be construed as investment advice. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, all I'm doing is sharing what I'm following, just some, of which I'm pursuing. Let me be as clear as I can. I believe the biggest story right now in the financial world is the emergence of digital assets, cryptocurrency. I hope everyone following this video has been following the price of things like Bitcoin and Ethereum over the last few weeks, right? I need for folks to realize that I believe some of the opportunities right now presented in the digital asset world dwarf most of the traditional finance opportunities. Understand, there are many very seasoned people out there who have followed markets much longer than I have, who question digital assets. I would encourage everyone to follow their work. Whenever you decide on something, you need to figure out what the other side of the fence feels about the issue and why. I would encourage people to research Peter Schiff, for example, who is very critical of digital assets and who believes that it's all a bubble. Understand, I don't. I can't talk too much about digital assets here because I have a Substack page with paid subscribers. That's Dwyer70905.substack.com. Again, Dwyer70905.substack.com. Many of you know that I've been following digital assets for at least the last 10 years. I believe I have a Bitcoin video up on YouTube that's 10 years old. My Substack page has only been around for 3 years. Let me just say, Ethereum tomorrow is going to announce an upgrade, is going to implement an upgrade to their blockchain. Folks, that should be by far the biggest news in the financial world over this 48-hour time period. Understand that DeFi over time is going to increasingly challenge traditional finance, right? The upgrade tomorrow in Ethereum is something you need to look at and research. Please Google it. Let me also point out too that most countries these days, including the United States of America, are demographically challenged. I believe, one man's belief, right, is that the reason why the demographics have deteriorated substantially in countries like China, the United States, the United Kingdom, to name 3 prominent economies. Let's throw in another, Japan, is because governments in each of those countries have been spending so much money that people intuitively sense that their standards of living are dropping. So as a result, they're having fewer kids. This is a different time than when fiat currency was related to gold, right? Was related to benchmarks that the government couldn't just randomly increase in size. And when one person could afford to financially support a family that included more kids than families typically have now, right? A spouse in marriages that were longer lasting than they are now, right? I believe the world's different today. People realize that they can't live in the big city and have the big family. They're making a hardcore decision to have fewer kids. Folks, that results in fewer taxpayers. That results in bond markets where outsiders don't even want to purchase your debt, as has happened for several years right now in Japan. Right? It's the local Bank of Japan that holds most of the debt for the country. Right? So just understand, debt markets have saturated the market. People understand that in their country, there is no way that their government will ever be able to pay back the debt that they've incurred. And I believe that has significantly changed not only consumption patterns, but also the number of kids people have. Right? So I need for folks to understand that in that environment, the market, as it often does, is solving the problem, not the politicians. And the solution involves digital assets like Bitcoin, like Ethereum, right? Understand, both of those digital assets are deflationary, right? As well as precious metals. It's not a coincidence that both Bitcoin and gold are around all-time highs, right? It's the group of consumers who have decided that they're tired of losing the value of their fiat currencies and who have switched over to Bitcoin, to gold, to silver, to Ethereum, right? It's those people who are actually creating the future. Anytime any politician whose government is running up $1 trillion with a T, $1 trillion of debt every 100 days, anytime any such politician gives a State of the Union and can't even mention the runaway debt that's going on unimpeded, should indicate to you that the current political system is broken beyond repair. Right? The new system is going to involve limited supply wealth. In other words, it's going to be based on gold or Bitcoin. You're going to increasingly hear, and it's going to be a slow roll, that numerous countries are going to be adopting reserves with Bitcoin, gold, right? That's going to be the new normal. Folks, you're in the very early innings of the upswing in Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? Understand, if you're someone who is very nervous about the idea of quantum computing destabilizing digital currencies, just understand there will always be as well a market for gold and silver. Let's just briefly talk over the next, let's say, 10 minutes. Let's just briefly talk about some economic ideas. Now, Apple backed away from creating electric vehicles. We understand that Tesla has been down of late. There's a slow rolling recognition in the United States that electric vehicles aren't going to be as robust a market as we thought. Folks, you've also heard extremely bad press about China, right? We know about China's demographic cliff. We understand that China is having a real estate crisis, Evergrande, right? We understand China is being denied semiconductor technology to hinder China's efforts at challenging in artificial intelligence. We understand all of that. What I want people to understand here, though, is that the electric vehicle market, and we've been critical of electric vehicles in the United States, the electric vehicle market in China is thriving right now. It's thriving to the point where China is exporting electric vehicles to places like Chile, to places around Asia. What I want people to do is to just look at and study a couple of companies that have caught my eye. Right? Li Auto trades on the NASDAQ here in the United States. Folks, the symbol is LI. Again, Li Auto, LI Auto Inc. On the NASDAQ, it's LI is the symbol. Right, folks? I'm sure when people are talking about EVs in most conversations, in the United States at least, they're talking about Tesla. Elon Musk is one of my favorite people in the public light. Right? I gladly support X. I have a couple of profiles on X. I'm interested in what Elon Musk has to say. Even his lawsuit concerning the founding agreement for OpenAI has caught my interest. I'm an Elon Musk fan. But let me just say, sometimes the best investments are the ones not talked about. In the EV space, please take a look at Li Auto. Right? I'm just sharing what I'm looking at. This is not a recommendation of any kind. I want everyone here to do their own due diligence. Another company that has caught my eye in the EV space is BYD Company Limited. Again, it's BYD Company Limited. Because it trades on numerous exchanges, you'll have to look up the symbol yourself. But understand, in the EV space, I believe the Chinese market is more robust than the American market. And I believe that it's companies like Li Auto, and BYD Company Limited who are showing the potential for huge upside. Let's continue on in China. I know this is not popular. Quite frankly, whenever there is some kind of negative campaign against a foreign country, you need to look closely at that foreign country. Understand, as Jim Cramer likes to say, and he got this from Peter Schiff, there's always a bull market out there somewhere. Right? Well, let's stay in China. You understand the significance of the generative AI market. You understand that it changes everything. College students can now create essays much more quickly, that are much more thorough, and that are annotated in a way that my generation could not, thanks to generative AI. You understand that many industries are being transformed. Now you can ask AI to create images for you. You don't have to go through a graphic designer. In terms of writing computer code, AI has already changed the space. You understand, in biotech, artificial intelligence is saving years of research. Years of research. So there's a need for AI. I believe it's going to be so embedded in society that we aren't even going to call it AI in a few years. Right? The idea of intelligence will just be understood. Just like in the early 80s, we had a phrase, high tech, that talked about computers. Right? Eventually, high tech became regular tech because we understood we needed to use it. Right? Well, understand, in the AI space, and we'll just call it cutting edge technology, in the United States right now, think about the run-up in market value that companies like Microsoft have benefited from, given their investment in OpenAI. You understand that artificial intelligence now has Google energized. Think about Google's Gemini here online. Right? Think about Amazon's cloud computing and how there's a buzz about how cloud computing dovetails perfectly with artificial intelligence. Many investors, of course, are into the servers that deal with processing, artificial intelligence requests. Companies like Dell Computer, look at their chart, have jumped. Well, I need for folks to understand that China has a huge market. Folks, it's bigger than the United States in terms of population by a wide margin. They have a huge market that's using generative AI, right? Even if we deny them semiconductor technology and what have you in the short term, right? And understand semiconductor companies are hot right now. Taiwan Semiconductor, red hot, look that up. Micron, MU is the symbol, look that up. The lithography companies are very richly priced right now. They're a necessary part of developing AI technology, right? ASML, look that up. But let me just say, you need to focus on Asia even with the demographic problems in places like South Korea, China. You need to realize that that's going to be an extremely vibrant AI ecosystem. And the company right now, and it's cheaply priced, that's making moves in the space is Alibaba. Right, folks? That's a huge opportunity. BA is the symbol. Again, BA, that's the symbol. I believe what investors need to do is they need to anticipate the future. If you know a technology like AI is a game changer, if you find yourself increasingly using it, and if you see a huge market out there, anywhere in the world, with a lot of people who would benefit from using AI, and who are already connected to the internet, digital media, then you need to anticipate that whether or not we deny them semiconductor technology, they're going to find a way to develop their own AI market. Right, folks? OpenAI right now is a big name in generative AI in the West. Understand, there's going to be an analogous company in the East. And just like Microsoft, big player, was able to invest in OpenAI early, you're going to have big players in China who are investing in similar companies. Right? Let me make another point too. Peter Zeihan, others have talked about the fact that China going forward is going to start decreasing in population. Right, folks? Understand, China is still going to have hundreds of millions of people. They're still going to have a need for goods and services. Things like AI that increase productivity and researchability in fields like healthcare are going to be in acute demand. So right now, at a time when all we're hearing about is China's problems, what I want the people watching this video to consider is the fact that China right now has a thriving electric vehicle market. Folks, it's exporting to other countries. Just like you have a Mercedes-Benz ecosystem here in the United States, right? People are driving around in Benzes. They need Benz auto parts. They need Mercedes-Benz mechanics. In other words, once a car company gets a sizable presence in a country, just like Mercedes-Benz here in the United States, then you're going to have repeat business. You're going to have the Mercedes-Benz driver who's going to say, hey, I need a new car. I love my Benz. I'm going to get another Benz. Folks, China right now is setting up that kind of future for its EV companies by exporting EVs all over the globe. Let me also say, too, and Peter Zeihan is a name you need to know. I would encourage you, he has great videos on YouTube. I would encourage you to look him up. Look up his videos. Don't hear about what he thinks from me. Listen to his videos and you hear about what he thinks from him. Right? He talks about China's problems and talks about China being in decline. What we're interested in is profiting from China's markets. Right? AI has broken big here in the United States. Folks, it's breaking big in China. Understand, too, Zeihan talks about how China doesn't exactly have a warm and fuzzy history in terms of welcoming foreigners. Right? Well, let me just say, necessity is the mother of invention. As China's demographic problems start to increase, I believe it's clear, given China's presence as an investor in Africa, and Africa is a big key here, I think it's clear that eventually you're going to have a lot of Africans, a lot of Filipinos. You're going to have a lot of immigrants moving into China. China already has ghost cities. The infrastructure is already built. As an investor, you need to anticipate the future. Let me close in talking about Africa. Folks, you're missing a lot if you don't look at the African continent. Many other places globally are demographically challenged. Folks, Africa is demographically thriving. Folks, they're thriving. They're thriving in a way that wars can't change the reality. Many of the immigrants who are spilling into Europe are African immigrants. Right? Folks need to understand the new reality. So, one of the reasons why digital assets is going to take off, and I mean big time, is because of Africa. You cannot find on streaming services like Netflix a discussion of African economies that doesn't involve a lot of African merchants with cell phones in merchant areas doing business directly with consumers. Right, folks? Nigeria, key country, has rules in place to try to prop up their central bank issued digital currency. Right, folks? My prediction is that that's going to fail miserably. That's going to be as miserable a failure as the effort was in Venezuela to prop up its central bank digital currency. Right? They're pushing that foolish central bank digital currency idea here in the United States. Right? Folks, anywhere they push in this digital asset world, the idea of a CBDC, I believe it's going to fail miserably long term. And the reason is, in part, because people like their freedom. They don't want the government being able to monitor the currency they have, right? Their parents were able to use cash. They understand the value of financial privacy. They don't want to live in a surveillance state, right? The masses are being educated on the subject quickly. I believe here in the United States, we have a presidential election coming up. It's going to be, and it should be, one of the biggest issues that emerges this election cycle. Well, understand, in Nigeria right now, the people are flocking to Bitcoin and other digital assets. So, of course, the government, which wants to prop itself up, which is part of the global government bubble, wants control of digital currency. So they are issuing their own digital currency, and they're astonished. They are astonished that the people aren't flocking to it, that the people instead are flocking to digital assets that the government doesn't control, that actually have international footprints. Right? It's hard to convince a Nigerian who knows of the international footprint of Bitcoin, who understands that countries like El Salvador, right, allow Bitcoin as legal tender, that Japan has allowed Bitcoin as legal tender. It's hard to suddenly hear from some local government that Bitcoin causes cancer or the financial equivalent. Right? The Nigerian government is going after digital asset players, right? Binance, any centralized exchange that's involved in helping provide access to digital assets to the masses. Right? This is an act of desperation by a government to prop itself up in a country of more than 200 million people. Right, folks? Watch the African economy as a bellwether. Africa is about to take off. Folks, there are more than 1 billion people in Africa. Right? I need for folks to understand, with all the terrible parts of history, right? The slave trade, the enslavement of Africans, you name it, in the UK, in the United States, in South America, in places like Brazil. Understand the economy in Africa is still robust. The demographics are tremendous. The natural resources are tremendous. Demographically challenged countries like China understand they need to have a financial presence in Africa. If you arm, and that's what we're doing, if you financially arm the African merchant with blockchain technology that they can carry with them on a phone to conduct their transactions and to have automatic accounting, to have a currency that does not depreciate in value long term like fiat currency does, that gives the African merchant some protection against an overspending government, a government that's beholden to international groups like the World Bank. If you instead allow the Nigerian people to be their own bank, folks, you're looking at an economic bonanza for the African continent. I believe that's the reality. Let's pay close attention to the situation in Africa as the central bank digital currency fails. Keep a close eye on what replaces it. Sooner or later, that government is going to reach the same crisis the American government has already reached. The government will realize that the Bitcoin community, whether it has the government's blessing or not, is going to continue to operate. And the government is going to understand that they're going to have a full-blown crisis on their hands if they try to overregulate it. Those are my thoughts. Let me hear yours. I see I'm almost at 30 minutes. I hope you leave your ideas in the comment section of this video, and please watch the market's response to Ethereum's upgrade that's going to be taking place tomorrow. Do yourself a favor too. Look at the charts for Ethereum and Bitcoin over the last 3 months. Thanks for stopping by.